Hello, listeners, and welcome to the third edition of Sniffing Leather, a discussion platform for the members and contributors for the cricket subreddit. My name is Sunny, and I will be moderating today's discussion regarding the upcoming England versus India Test series. We're joined by Rahul and Jim from the subreddit, and they will be sharing their thoughts with us. Hello, Rahul. Hello, Jim. It's good to have you here today.
Hi, Sunny.
Hi, Sunny.
Hi, Jim. It's good to be here today as well.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this.
Okay, so England. Jimmy, I'm going to direct this first question at you. How do you think England are coping with being in India? Do you think they'll be ready for the first test?
Well, they've made a lot of preparation. They've had some county spinners, including Danny Briggs and James Treadwell over there, giving them some practice. And apparently Gooch has made some kind of mat that allows them to practice spin better, which sounds strange and interesting. Quite a few of the team have been there before. I mean, only Compton, Bairstow hasn't really been there too much, so I'm not too concerned about acclimatization. They've played pretty well in the two warm-ups. I mean, I think two draws were foregone conclusions, and it looks like the third one's heading into a draw too. So, yeah, I think they're really committed to giving a good performance in it, because they've arrived 3 weeks early. They've made a lot of extra preparation. So I'm pretty confident that they've done everything they can to be prepared, really.
Given themselves time to acclimatize themselves to the Delhi belly?
That's always a problem for the English in India, I hear. I mean, Pryor was taken off Pryor had to be subbed for Bairstow the other day because he had to keep going to the bathroom during the match. So hopefully they'll be over that by the time the first test starts.
Perfect. What do you think, Rahul?
I think that they've had all the preparation that they could have had. I agree with Jim there, but I'm not sure whether they've had the performance that would help them in the test series, because if you look at it, they've not faced any quality opposition so far in the practice matches. The bowlers that they've had to face have been pretty mediocre. They've had not to face any quality spin so far. Amit Mishra was there in the team, but surprisingly he bowled very little. So I think the BCCI is doing this on purpose. They're not allowing the English team to practice against any quality spinners, and that might help the Indian team come the test series. Other than that, I think that the English batting looks very good, and if the pitches are flat or as we're used to in India, I think we might be in for a couple of draws in this test series. The English bowlers, I'm not so sure about. I don't think they have the spinning attack to actually trouble India, and their fast bowling might not be that helpful against India in these conditions. So, looking at it, I don't think they've had a lot of practice, but I'm confident they're actually prepared well.
Interesting. Now, for the Indian team, other than Captain Mahendra Singh Dhoni, pretty much the entire Test team got an outing in the Ranji Trophy or in the warm-ups in the case of Chiteshwar Pujara, because Saurashtra was not playing in the first round of Ranji matches. How do you think the Indian squad has shaped up so far, and who do you think out of the squad is going to miss out for the first test?
Well, it's shaped up pretty well so far. Nothing unexpected, all on the normal expected lines so far. MSD was probably, I guess, in the right to not take the Ranji Trophy game for his state side. They won pretty comfortably without him as well. If I remember correctly, they managed to get all 7 points. And MSD plays a lot of international cricket these days, so it's understandable that he wants to take a day off or so. Other than that, I think that Rahane, Ishant Sharma will definitely miss out. Maybe even Harbhajan for sure will miss out. Can't see him replacing Ojha and Ashwin for the first test. It might be a fight between Yuvraj and Vijay for the six batsman spot. I think that the Indian team management might not be averse to playing Sehwag down the order and opening with Gambhir and Vijay. What I'd personally like to see would actually be Gambhir sitting out and Vijay and Sehwag opening, because I think that might be the most potent opening lineup we could come up with. Strangely, it seems that the Indian management is not looking at Rahane as a replacement for the opening batsman, and he's being groomed up as a replacement for Sachin in the middle order. So I think we're going so well pretty far, but I don't know what's going to happen. But for sure, Harbhajan, Ishant, and what's the third guy I mentioned? Forgot now his name.
Yep. So you think it's basically going to be Ashwin and Pragyan Ojha, and Harbhajan's going to...
Harbhajan's going to miss for sure. I can't see him playing the first test match.
Okay, what about this injury scare with Zahir Khan? He apparently walked off because of a groin niggle.
Yeah, but that's just Zahir Khan. I don't expect him to be fit for a domestic match. It's pretty much expected from him nowadays. And I think he'll be fit for the first test match. And even if he's 90%, India would play him. He's just that good of a bowler for us.
Interesting. Now, talking about injuries, Jim, Stuart Broad is nursing a sore heel. Who do you think is going to replace him? What do you think is going to happen with the team sheet the morning of the first day?
Well, I think Broad it looks like he's going to be okay. He sat out the practice match, obviously, the one that's playing currently. And he's, the real concern for me is Steve Finn not playing in the first test, to be honest. I think that considerably weakens England's bowling, his bounce, his pace, he's just a superb bowler, and I think Bresnan doesn't balance that out. I think Bresnan will be in for Finn, and I don't think his batting balances out Finn's superior bowling, to be honest. Finn takes wickets when he's not bowling well. If Bresnan can't reverse it, and the pitch in Mumbai looks like it's not conducive to taking reverse swing. So I think Finn is a real concern for me, or the lack of Finn is a real concern for me.
No unexpected changes in the batting order?
I think Compton's pretty much nailed it at the moment. Nailed the opener slots. I'd expect Patel to play at 3 if they go with two seamers. If they go with three seamers and one spinner, just because his left arm spin is handy, and he's played pretty well in the opening. They haven't faced any quality spin. I agree with Rahul that Ojha and Ashwin will be playing, and I think they'll cause a lot more problems for England's batting order than Mishra did. Peterson accepted, who I think will be able to take them for a few runs. But I think there's not really going to be any surprises. I don't think Bairstow has done enough to nail down a spot in the opening 11, and I don't think Mika's undercooked because he's only just arrived, and Onion's batting is a lot weaker than Bresnan's, so I think pretty much 6 is the only spot that's in doubt, and I expect that to be Patel, personally.
Interesting. Now, much has been made about, the lead up to the series. There's a lot of underlying resentment between the teams, or it appears to us that way. They had the Jelly Bean incident, then you had that Ian Bell run out, and then him being recalled, and people in India were not very happy about that. Peterson called Yuvraj a pie chucker not too long ago. So, how much of this animosity do you expect to be expressed on the field this time around?
I'll take this first, I guess. I don't accept that to be a big issue this time around. I think it's the media and the fans actually which hype up the rivalry more than it actually is. And yes, there were a few incidents, the Jelly Bean incident or the Ian Bell run out, but being in India now I don't expect much incidents to come out. And with the absence of DRS, what we actually might see would be probably complaints after the test match is over that, if the DRS would have been there, this incident would have gone in our favour and we might have been in a better position than we were. But on field, with the current teams, I somehow don't see much rivalry on the field, to be honest.
Jimmy?
I think if if Yuvraj nails down the sixth spot for India, they'll definitely bring him on to bowl at Peterson, and we might see a little bit of joshing and joking between them, possibly, although they are mutually antagonistic. But I don't think it will be anything serious. What will be interesting is to see if Cook can keep his team under control. I mean, we saw in the pointless ODI series in India last year that England are a bit petulant when Strauss isn't around, especially Broad and Swan, and it'll be interesting to see how Cook handles that. I mean, I know he's got the respect of the dressing room as a player. He's played more tests than anyone else except Peterson in the team, so he's got bags of experience, but I'm not sure if he has the gravitas that Strauss had in the dressing room. So it'll be interesting to see if Cook can stop the more childish players from expressing that childishness on the pitch, I think. But I'm the same as Rahul. I expect a lot of it to be keyboard warriors and the English media to make a meal out of everything, more than the players themselves causing problems.
Oh, well, the Indian media is no better. If you read the regional media, you'd probably laugh at it.
I try and stay away from the Times of India and things like that.
We've got some Hindi media which is even better than that.
Oh, really?
All right. So I'm going to direct this question at you, Rahul.
Mm-hmm.
Your namesake and VVS are not going to be in the team for the first time. How do you think the Indian batting lineup is going to cope with the English bowling attack? And conversely, how do you think the English bowling attack is going to cope with the conditions in India?
Well, obviously, a test match without Rahul and VVS is kind of unimaginable to me, because ever since I've started watching Test cricket, these guys have been there. So, and I believe it will be a big loss for the Indian team as well. It's not easy to replace players of the caliber of Rahul and VVS. And we do have some promising youngsters in Kohli and Pujara, but it would take them a couple of years to be able to gain that amount of respect from the Indian fans that VVS and Rahul commanded. I believe that, if it's a dire situation at 4 for 2, for example, and with no Rahul and VVS there in the middle order, the English team would also feel more confident regarding the situation. And it might help them as well, to cope with the conditions in that regard. And the Indian lower order, as of now, it's not really promising, with the test form of MSD and with Yuvraj, if he possibly nails down the spot at 6, coming in, making a comeback. I think it would be a very dicey proposition for India if they lose a couple of quick wickets, which might not be surprising given the form our openers have been in. The English bowling attack, I think, can cope with these conditions. I remember last time when England toured India, or it was actually last time before the last, Anderson had a beautiful test match along with Flintoff at Mumbai. And I believe that if the conditions favour swing bowling, Anderson can come in pretty handy. I agree with Jim when he says that India should be more afraid of, because with the bouncy extracts, he could trouble a lot of Indian batsmen. It might be a big boost for India if he does not play the first test match, but I would obviously prefer him to be there. With Onions or Meeker or Bresnan, I don't see them making any sort of impact in the test series. They're not the sort of bowlers who would trouble batsmen in Indian conditions. Swan, I'm not so sure about him. He's never had the sort of impact in Indian conditions that you would expect a good spinner to have. Patel, I don't know. I can't see him as a proper spinner. I would probably prefer Panesar to play because I think of him as a better spinner in Indian conditions. But that's up for the English management to decide. I think the bowlers we should watch out as an Indian fan would be Anderson and Finn, with Finn taking the top spot.
Jimmy, what do you have to say about that?
I broadly agree with Rahul. I think so much depends on Anderson for England, especially if Finn's absent from the first test. I mean, he's proved in the UAE and in Sri Lanka that he's not the same bowler that got bashed around in India in 2008. And I think he's completely right when he says that they're promising youngsters, not a few of them haven't really established themselves at test level yet, and I expect Anderson could be very effective with the old ball against the middle order. Sachin's not in the best of form, although he did a century in the Ranji, so that might really help him out. And I think Patel is not really a frontline spinner. he'll get taken for runs if he plays, especially if Sayweg comes in down the order. So I think I agree. I think Swan has been in the past a very good spinner, but I think he's lost his powers a little bit. I don't think he'll ever be as effective as he was during his purple patch that got England to the top Test rankings. So I would like to see Panesar play too, with seamers Broad and not Broad, apologies, Finn and Anderson. But I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to go with 3 seamers, whatever the conditions, and Panesar will probably only play in 1 test or 2, depending on if the pitch is a death bowl. So I'm not too optimistic about how England are going to do in the conditions, Anderson aside. I think we'll struggle to get wickets, to be honest.
Interesting. Now the next question is directed at you, Jimmy. KP, famous KP, he's back. He's back in the fold, and everybody loves him again. And his knowledge of Indian conditions is certain to help the English side. You know, he plays in the IPL. I think he's played every single year that they've had the IPL. How do you think the English batting order is going to front up to the Indian attack? Do you think they're going to be more aggressive because KP is there, and they kind of are going to look at him as like almost like a Jesus Christ-like figure who's going to like help their team out as much as possible? What do you think?
I think whether they're attacking or batting defensively, they just can't afford to get trapped in the crease like they did in the UAE. They really looked unsure about whether to play a ball off the front foot or the back foot, and they kept getting LBW or out to silly shots. And so however they choose to play it, and I expect Peterson particularly to attack because that's what he does. You saw his counter-attack at Headingley against South Africa was just a fabulous innings, and he played a similar one in Sri Lanka the start of the year. And so I think he will be the player that attacks, as will Pryor. Pryor will look to counter punch and score at a strike rate of 75 to 80, as he always does. But I think it depends as well. If Patel plays at 6, he'll probably be a bit more watchful than, say, Morgan would, for example. We know Morgan likes to hit it, but he's struggled getting it through his favourite areas on the offside in Test matches, and so I don't think they'll go for Morgan. And Bairstow's a really attacking player as well, but I still think they'll go with Patel just for his spin. So I really think that the only options that England's got for attack really are Peterson and Pryor, and I expect Trott, Cook and Compton to be watchful as ever, accumulate a strike rate of around 50, and not really look to attack even the spinners. I don't expect them to look to attack that. I think that they'll save that for a couple of wickets down, and Peterson comes in and bashes them around a bit.
Interesting. Rahul, what's your opinion on this? How do you think England is going to cope?
I think that, with the addition of KP, the English team is definitely stronger. He's an excellent batsman. He knows how to play spin, which is a big positive for any English batsman. They've not had many who've been adept at playing spin. And KP, I expect him to have a wonderful series. He likes India. The Indian public also likes him. Scores a lot of runs. You won't be listening to too many boos from the crowd or something like that. Compared to the other batsmen, I expect Cook for sure to have an excellent series. He's a highly accomplished batsman with a watertight technique, and I can't see many of the Indian frontline seamers troubling him. So he would be pretty settled in by the time the spinners come round, and I believe he has the technique to take on these Indian spinners. As for the middle order, I believe with Patel, Compton at the top of the order, Trott, these guys might struggle if the pitch takes a lot of turn. I don't know much about Patel. I haven't seen much of his batting, but he doesn't look to be a highly accomplished batsman. And with Bairstow and Morgan as reserves, it might be tricky for England if they are already two down by the time the third or the fourth test comes around. Because I can't see Morgan and Bairstow being adept at playing spin at all. In fact, in the recently concluded, or as Jim rightly pointed out, the pointless ODI series in India, Bairstow had a horrible time against the spinning ball. He was getting out to Ravindra Jadeja, and Jadeja is nowhere near one of the top spinners in India. So if we have pitches which take a lot of turn, I expect most of the English batsmen, apart from Cook and KP, to struggle.
Interesting. Now, Jim, I'm going to direct this at you really quickly. 3 players that you think are from the English team and 3 players from the Indian team that you think are going to have a lot of impact this series.
Okay, well, from England, I think Cook is going to be vital. It's his first series as full-time captain. He's proven in ODIs that that responsibility suits him. He's been in brilliant form until when he took over the captaincy there. He's made a century and a 97 in the warm-up matches so far. He made his first century in the subcontinent on his debut. I expect him to be England's rock at the top of the order. I agree with Rahul on that. I think he's so important. If he can get a start after that, immediately puts England in a good position. I think KP will be crucial as well if he can play as we know he can and doesn't give his wicket away trying to scoop over his own head or something ridiculous. Then he could potentially win matches for England. And again, I think Anderson is the only bowler that we can really expect special things from until Finn comes in. I think he's fantastic. He's got great control. He's got great line and length. He can swing it both ways. I can't see any other English bowler troubling the Indian batsman, to be honest. So those are my 3 picks for England. And for India, I think now is the time to prove for Kohli to prove that he's on the way to becoming a great batsman. Really, I think this is a series where he needs to step up and carry his ODI form or his limited overs form, because he's been fantastic in the T20s too, into the Test arena. He was scored a very good century in Australia. I don't think England have got anyone who can worry him. But if he plays the kind of innings that we hope he can, I'm really looking forward to watch Kohli. It'll be interesting to see Gambhir and how he gets on. I don't think he's a key player in terms of India's performance. I don't think he'll contribute much, but it could mean the end of his Test career if he doesn't perform. Although the Indian selectors are notably reluctant to take tough decisions like that. If he performs well, I expect him to still be criticised, but it will certainly help India out when they're not losing a batsman in the first half an hour. And from the bowlers, I really think that Ashwin will give them so much confidence. His Karan ball, his Sudoku ball, I think I pronounced that right, is really going to bother England. I think he'll take wickets. I think he'll take top order wickets, and his batting could be very helpful again on dead tracks. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the part that he can play in the series too.
Interesting. So you think Ashwin's going to take top order wickets, which is kind of like an indictment for the Indian seam attack, because apparently the top order is still going to be playing when the spinners are introduced. What about you, Rahul? Who do you think?
I agree mostly with Jim's choices. For the English team, definitely Cook at the top of the order is one of the most vital players that England have got. KP in the middle order. For bowling, I would definitely nominate Finn. I think from the signs that we've been getting in the media from the English team, that Finn would play the first Test match, even if he's not 100% fit. I can see him playing the first Test match because the English team also recognizes that he's one of the best bowlers that they've got currently, and he's likely to trouble the Indian batsmen. For Team India, surprisingly, I expect Sehwag to actually have a good series this time around. Call me crazy, but I can see him performing well against the English team. Kohli, definitely. This is his go-to series. This is the series that would make or break him as a great Test batsman. If he can prove himself in this Test series, he's on his way up. He's on his way to becoming one of the best Test batsmen India will produce in this generation. From the bowlers, I expect Ojha to actually have a very good series. He's the kind of bowler, he's the kind of steady bowler who could trouble the English batsmen. He doesn't have as many varieties as Ashwin does, or he's not even half the batsman that Ashwin is. But I expect him to be a very good bowler because he can keep it tight. He can bowl these 6 deliveries and not give away even a single bad delivery. Ashwin has this tendency of giving away one short ball or one horrible delivery in his 6 overs, in a span of 6 balls or something like that. But Ojha is a very consistent bowler, and I think England struggle when they are unable to score freely against the spinners. So if you have a bowler like Ojha who can bowl consistently, then I think England will struggle against him.
Interesting. Now, finally, I know for the average Indian fan, a scoreline of 4-0 India is what they expect. And, that's what they want. Now, but for an English fan, a series victory, no matter what the margin, is what they want so that they can build on the 4-0 victory that they had back in England last year. So, I'm going to ask you guys to put your money where your mouth is. What's your final prediction for the final scoreline?
Who's going first?
I can take this one first. I would love England to win by any margin. It doesn't matter if it's 1-0 on the last ball of the last test. I really wouldn't mind that at all. But I regret to say that I think it's not going to happen. It's going to be 2-0 to India. There's going to be a couple of drawn tests. England will come close. But England just won't be able to play spin effectively enough to win a test, I think. And as I said, I don't think England's bowlers will worry India too much throughout the series. So I'm pretty sure it's going to be 2-0 to India.
Rahul?
Yeah, I agree with Jim's prediction there. I would also say a 2-0. As you correctly pointed out, I would dearly love a 4-0 because that summer in England was painful. I used to get up each day just to watch that test match, and painful memories. Let's not go back there. Thankfully, Rahul played well. But I expect India to win 2-0 with a couple of high-scoring draws on docile pitches. I don't expect England to come close in any of the matches. Maybe we'll have India in a position where, they're 3 or 4 down for 100 odd, and then the number 6 or 7 batsman comes through. Because in these docile conditions, even Dhoni becomes an excellent test batsman.
So both of our panelists agree that we're looking at a 2-0 scoreline for this format series. Thank you both for the wonderful discussion and taking the time to join us this morning. That's it for this edition of Sniffing Leather. Please join us again next time. If you would like to join us and contribute content or participate in Sniffing Leather, please leave a comment below. Thank you.